Hello, I'm Paul Check, and welcome to Spirituality or 10 Commandments You Choose, Lesson 13. Today we're going to look at commandment number 9 of the Christian, atheist, and Native American Indian systems. And before we begin, as in our previous lessons, I will review the model that we use for comparison in case this is the first clip you've seen. I will remind you that the first 3 clips really are the introduction to the series, so if you're coming in late, you might want to start with clips 1, 2, and 3 just to get the foundation of the model of comparison we're using. But for a quick snapshot, let's have a look. I'm using Oshos Model of sex and violence love, empathetic and compassionate love, sex and violence followed by conditional love, and finally empathy and compassion. As I've stated previously in our first 3 lectures when I described that love is a code, not necessarily a word, the O in love stands for unconditional love, consciousness, soul. Those words, absolute truth, whichever absolute qualities you would like. Everything outside of unconditional love, which is exemplified by the absolute emptiness and the absolute fullness of God meeting each other, which creates vibration. Vibration is the source of mind or all things knowable. You can't know anything without a mind. That's why they say the nice thing about Alzheimer's is you get to meet new people every day. When you don't have a mind, you cannot separate yourself from anything created. Babies actually think they are the floor, they are the mother until their ego begins to form, and then they can differentiate self from others. So our first stage of spiritual development comes through sex and violence loving. We're all born through an act of sex. The birthing process, as many of you are aware, can be violent. And the process of learning how to manage our own body can be violent. Banging, falling, clanging, burning, etc. We go through quite a process until our ego forms adequately to differentiate what we need in relationship to other, which begins our second phase of love, which is called the conditional phase. Here we get clear on the conditions we need to feel safe and secure. And when we are honest about our needs, it creates more harmony in relationships. So you see that you move closer in to the center where there's less turbulence. This model here representing essentially mind and or a storm, a tornado. As you move in, it's less turbulent. As we mature to the point at which we can look at other people's predicaments and situations and clearly see ourselves in them because we have already been down these paths and through these challenges, we enter into empathy and compassion. Empathy means to feel the other. Compassion means to understand the other. And we can only truly give empathy and compassion when we have true feelings and true knowledge of their experience, and we realize that this is a problem or the kinds of challenges that all human beings go through. So the empathetic and compassionate lover is typically someone with wisdom, which means experience. These are your tribal elders, and they are what our parents are supposed to offer us. So with that model in place, let's move forward. Christian commandment number 9, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. To bear false witness means to lie. It's a really good commandment, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. It is a condition, it is a dictate, therefore it's conditional. To bear false witness against your neighbor is an act of sex and violence loving. And the fact that the commandments have to be in place is itself an indicator that the grand majority of human beings at large are in that stage of loving, thus they need commandments or conditions by which they can live in greater harmony. Commandments are essentially attempts to put wisdom in place to allow people to have a structure to follow so that they can learn to create more peace in their life. It's important here to point out that the nature of lying in general emerges from our desire to meet our needs. After 25 years of coaching people in relationship challenges, I can assure you that most of the time when somebody lies, it's because they do not feel it is safe to tell the truth. If you study the university educational program available through the teaching company called The Roots of Human Behavior by Professor Barbara King, she gives you a very beautiful overview of the relationship of our ideas and our behaviors relative to primates. The work of Jane Goodall does the same. Barbara King gives a very good example of when she first found a chimpanzee lying. The chimpanzee had found food, she watched it find the food, it ate some, it buried the rest, and then when the rest of the tribe came along, started conversing, they were looking for food, the little chimpanzee pointed them in another direction, away from her food. And when they were gone, she went back and finished her food. So Barbara King points out that this idea of lying is a means of self-protection. So I would encourage us all to remember that when somebody lies, we should look to see what the unmet need is and try to find out what it is that's making them feel so insecure that they cannot tell us the truth. Imposing commandments on people, as we see here, is a great way to make them feel insecure, for if they feel they're breaking a commandment and the punishment is going to be burning in hell, damnation, getting grounded, whatever, it's really, really hard to expect people to tell us the truth. It's a defense mechanism. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. I'd say that's empathetic and compassionate. It's a condition, but there's an offering there. The atheist's ninth commandment: form independent opinions on the basis of your own reason and experience. Do not allow yourself to be led blindly by others. Great offering, but there's a problem here. Form independent opinions on the basis of your own reason and experience. Do not allow yourself to be led blindly by others. Well, what do you do when your own reason and experience is not producing the results you want? Isn't it natural to find someone who has more knowledge or wisdom on any given subject than you? And how do you know whether you're going to be led blindly or not? Look at all the people that were led into religious wars in the name of God, and they were supposed to be being led by popes and leaders that were truly spiritually responsible and connected to the Word of God, which we've covered extensively here. So I would say, do not allow yourself to be led by others whose lives do not reflect the kind of love experience you want to have. So there's conditions here, there's empathy and compassion here, but we must be cautious to get clear on who it is that we really want to choose to follow, so we don't end up getting beat up in the process of, basically taking advice from anybody with a PhD behind their name or something like that. The Native American Indians' ninth commandment is be truthful and honest at all times. Well, again, as I said earlier, if it's dangerous to be truthful and honest, then is that really a good idea? I would say be truthful and honest to the degree that you can without damaging yourself or encouraging the damage of others, but seek to find a resolution that works for all people involved. All virtues are double-edged swords. Too much truth wounds, not enough truth wounds. Too much love wounds, not enough love wounds. Too much of any commandment has its negative, and not enough has its negative as well. This is why we need wise elders leading us. If you study tribal societies and you study how they raise the children, you will find that the wisdom of the elders was the guiding force. Sadly, much of that was obliterated when the various religions took the tribes over and wiped out their tribal belief systems. Again, I would recommend studying Voices of the First Day. The Aboriginals had a beautiful philosophy. There's many, many books out there discussing these different philosophies. David Suzuki has books on this, looking at creation mythologies. Great stuff out there. All you got to do is look around, but remember, is the person leading you living the kind of life that you want to live? If so, they might be a reasonable person for you to use as a seeing eye dog. As I've said before, feel free to visit my websites, ppssuccess.com, checkinstitute.com, checkconnect.com, and my blog is paulcheck.com. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to sharing with you, and we'll review the 10th commandment. Bye-bye.